delighted, we are thrilled to have a performance by a multi-talented Paul Bowles, which will include the wonderful tales of Granddaddy and Malachi with poetry, drums, and xylophone. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Old friends. Well, thanks for giving me this chance to present again. It's always a sheer delight. And recently, well, as you've just heard, grandkids are a focus in my life right now. We've still got one at home now for a couple more days. But anyway, so a while back, I particularly have a relationship with the 3-year-old because he's the talker, Malachi. And I get to go up there and he comes down here and we walk to the park and we have little conversations together and get into various little experiences. You know, for me it's a joy to be sort of living through a child's, you know, way. And so I wrote a batch of stories about our, you know, dealings together. And actually I'm so happy to hear that it's actually going to get published in a magazine next month.
Wow,
It's called, the magazine's called Dialogue. Me and Roy found it in the library. But anyway, so the nucleus of my presentation is a story of, as Ali said, Grandad and Malachi, but which I will read to you and will take about 15 minutes. Around that nucleus, I imagined electrons revolving as poems revolving around the nucleus, all related to children, starting with birth. But I want to go a little bit deeper than just the physical birth. I want to go before birth, because it sort of echoes our sort of philosophy of life after death. So obviously there's life before life here on earth. And so I want to just go a little bit further back, where one can imagine that the soul is waiting to move into the earthly vehicle when it's born as a baby and start a whole new experience of life in the physical world. And I'm thinking, he's waiting, the soul, he, she, it, the power of the soul is waiting to connect to a little individual there, an individual body. So I envisioned as a concept for this that little being, that child, would be given some wisdom by the higher forces before he left that realm to enter the earth. But I want to go even a little deeper than that. I want to just go beyond that message of wisdom to the source itself, because it's only proper that the source should be acknowledged. So I want to open with just a couple of simple compositions on the xylophone. But I want to pass this around. I had meant to say that this presentation also involved calligraphy. And I have a calligraphed verse or poem or whatever you might call it for every poem here. And this is what I would like to start with, and just to recap what I said before. This verse came from spiritual writings, and I must admit I've completely forgotten where, but I've always really admired it for its coherence. And so I'm going to pass it around and everyone can see it while I'm playing. And that can just go back into this pocket when it comes back. My universe has evolved from my own being. I hold it poised in my mind. I live in the midst of it. I am the life that springs forth in all living things. Flowers, trees. I am the life and beauty of your world and of mankind. So these are the words that are coming around to you right now, and were the words that I imagine coming from, say, like a voice of God. However one might imagine God being pure energy. So then we are approaching the birth of the child. The soul is circulating around the child's body in the womb, ready to be born. And the soul is going to pick up wisdom for that little person to absorb. And that wisdom is, look to this day, for it is life. The very life of life. In its brief course lie all the truths and realities of existence. The joy of growth, the splendour of action, and the glory of power. For yesterday is just a memory, and tomorrow only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a memory of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. So the soul moves into the body. And the father, before the father, the ladies are gathered and they're chanting during the birth of the child and making music. The father comes up and says, "May I play the drum to infuse this little being with rhythm?" And the most awesome event in the world is the birth of a child. It is the continuum of love fulfilled. In its smile is the pure joy of divine perfection. In its eyes is the uncorrupted vision of what mankind could be. And in its tiny clutching hands is the new hope that what could be will never totally be out of mankind's reach as long as the ultimate mystery of human birth continues. A little behind in sending these around as I speak. This is the one about birth. After that, Michael. So we have the birth, the little child is with us, and there's a joy in the life of the family. And there's a little verse out of my treasure trove of calligraphy. I picked out all for this presentation that I could that were related to children. And this one I couldn't ignore. None of these are my composition, by the way, but this was a favourite of mothers in the last generation, I think. Cleaning and scrubbing can wait till tomorrow. For babies grow up, we've learned to our sorrow. So quiet down cobwebs, dust, go to sleep. I'm rocking my baby, and babies don't keep. To us of children is a passage in a book by Khalil Gibran called The Prophet. So basically, as I understand it, the prophet lives on the island, well respected by the entire community, but he's leaving and his ship is coming into port. So all of the community go down to the dock to give their well wishes to him. But there's a woman there with a baby at her bosom, and she says to him, "Speak to us of children." And he says, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but are not from you. You may give them your love, but you may not give them your your thoughts, because they have their own thoughts. And you may house their bodies, but you may not house their souls, which dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backwards, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. And the archer sees his mark on the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even though he loves the arrow that flies, so also does he love the bow that is stable. So now we come to the story. You're wondering what was underneath this.
It has a bell in it.
It does indeed. Plays a part in the story, so I had to bring it. The Wonderful Tales of Granddaddy and Malachi. The human whirlwind is only 3 years old, but he is the closest thing to omnipresence in our lifetime. He was up at 4 a.m. this morning, despite collapsing at 9 o'clock the night before. Climbing up onto my bed, he slams my slippers into my chest and proclaimed, "I'm ready to play in the dirt, Granddaddy." Unlike Malachi, I suffer from insomnia, and if it wasn't for a disjointed dream filtering through my head about a very confused musical venue, I would have sworn no sleep took place at all. I opened my eyes to behold the whirlwind had one eye swollen shut from a mosquito bite, which I remembered occurring on my watch, when with dirt-packed hands Malachi was clawing at his face while attempting to fill up his dump truck at the same time. It had not appeared to affect his energy level, which my mother would have called St. Vitus dance. But that was yesterday. Today, the summer sun was bursting through my window, and the train whistle would soon be blowing across the valley. To be there, when that big freight comes bursting through the forest, bell ringing and siren wailing, was the name of the game. It was living our song. Train gonna come when that whistle blow. When that whistle blow, train gonna come. Train gonna come. And we were there when it came, nearly every day for 2 weeks. The little chap with the blazing furnace was on loan from his mum and dad in Kelowna, and there was no time to lose. 2 weeks in Fruitvale of wagon rides, hours of walking, playing in the park with passing strangers looking to swing and slide, like Sloane and Hudson, Easton, and the little 2-year-old bundle of sweetness who knew how to say, "All aboard," was fun. When her dad chimed in with that, "Woo, woo," Malachi's ears pricked up. He thought we were the only pair of human whistles in the game of train. "Come on, Malachi," yells Sloane, a 7-year-old leader of children. "Let's go see the old car buried in the bank." My interest is piqued. She knows something I don't. So I follow after the rapidly disappearing throng of kids running along the creek. It was fenced, by the way. Then, after intense peering through the jungle of growth, I see it. Yes, it is a car, with an oval rear window and a flat trunk rear end. Rusted, but intact, buried in the bank, on the far side of the creek. Huh. Well, what do you know? Since we couldn't get in it, there was a general dissipation of interest. And then the train whistle blew. "Woo, woo! It's coming back from the border," he said. "Let's go." So we pick up and run as fast as I can carry him out of the park, up the hill, over the bridge, through the town, across the road, and we get to the tracks before it arrives. Then she comes, bright lights shining, an ear-piercing whistle, "Woo, woo," as the 4519 crosses the main road through Fruitvale. The engine driver waves, and we sing our song that has married us to this thundering iron horse. Train, train, rolling down the track. Train, train, oh, me and Malachi, watching that train go by. We amble home, Malachi up on my shoulders, and we head over the tracks, up the country path, across the stream and back for lunch, and the next to impossible nap time that will demand much resilience to see through until sleep washes away the desire to play. The afternoon, yet to manifest itself, may well incorporate a resumption of yesterday's struggle to prevent a bucketful of soil from entering the freshly filled wading pool. But it is also possible to repeat a recent rewarding experience at the ballroom down at the mall, where kids enter a void of parental interference to throw themselves into a pit of balls or climb a rope ladder into an overground caterpillar-type tunnel, slide out of an exit, cascading down flights of cushioned steps and then delivered into a net. Malachi has not yet developed the strength or height to take on the zip line across the room. After one such exhausting day, I was reclining in my armchair upstairs in my room when a pyjamaed escapee pitter-pattered up the stairs and joined me in the chair, clutching his sippy cup. There had been a power outage, which had just been reconnected, and my wife was resetting the clock on the stove downstairs, resulting in loud peeping sounds. Beep, 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 beep. He asked, "What's that, Granddaddy?" I said, "That's the clock being reset." He said, "What's the clock, Granddaddy?" I said, "Right." Well, the clock tells us the time. To which he replied, "What's time, Granddaddy?" I said, "Okay, well, you know the sun comes up when you wake up? We go out to play, then the sun goes down. It gets dark, and we have to go to bed. That is time passing by. The sun is like a clock. But Grandad has a little clock here, see? It has hands on it that move around just like the sun moves in the sky. The clock tells us the time in numbers, just like this. Like 1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, shut the door. 5, 6, pick up sticks. And 7, 8, lay them straight. 9, 10, big fat hen. And there's 11 and a 12 after that. He said, pointing across the room, "There's a clock over there, Grandad." I said, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. I don't use it at all. But here you can see it." So I got up to fetch it and gave it to him. He then said, "Where's the numbers, Grandad?" "Oh, right," I said. "This clock doesn't have any, just marks." That reminded me of an occasion walking with him when we came across a short post in the centre of the sidewalk. He asked, "What's that?" To which I replied, "That's a post." We walked further and saw another short post. He asked again, "What's that?" I said, "A post." Continuing on, we encountered a tall lamp post on the sidewalk. And once again, he asked the question, "What's that?" This time, I defined it as a lamp post and added, "Because it has a light above." I pointed up at it and added, "But there is no light right now because it is daytime and the light is not turned on in the daytime." As I said this, I was sure it was out of his depth of understanding, but I was backed into a corner and could not say it in a simpler fashion. He then turned to me and pointed over the road to a single lamppost, the only one on the street with a bright light on. He said, "What's that, Grandad?" Kids have insights, if you were listening. Me and Malachi were walking down the country path upon a stretch of grey gravel, mostly. But he saw a particular rock embedded, which stood out, if you were looking. he proclaimed, "There's a pancake rock, Granddaddy." And it sure was. It was roughly oval, flattish, and had a golden brown colour, and with some depth around the edges. While I was stopped, gawking at this profound observation, Malachi goes on ahead and waves down a couple of people coming our way and proceeds to explain, "Hey, there's a pancake rock back there." When they get to it, they both concur with him and pass on. We continue to the park, thoroughly testing the depth of numerous puddles along the way. It was along this same path that Malachi composed his first song. It came out of the blue while travelling on my shoulders, in what must have been a state of silent incubation. All I could do was think to myself, wow, I have to memorise this fast. It had a tune and words describing his experience. Let's go down, down to the park. Let's go down to the water. Let's go down, down to the park. Let's go down to the water. We have since reinforced this in both our memories and sing it together in a sort of hi-ho, it's off to work we go type of fashion. He also comes up with other phrases like muffin in the water, yeah, yeah, as he sprinkled his muffin in a puddle. I also make up songs as opportunity affords, such as the bees are drinking the flower juice, the bird is up in the sky, etc., as we see things happening around us. So it must be rubbing off on him as an expression of life lived. I'm often surprised at the word associations he makes, such as from an occasion when pushing him very gently on the swing. This was a more adult swing, just a rubber band that you sit on. He's normally encased in his baby seat and has no fear of falling off, but we just happened upon this more adult swing, so I seated him on it, but was very careful that he wouldn't lose his balance, so I was pushing him very gently. I was slowly incanting the words, back and forth, back and forth. And he joined in with a Robert Munch line about rocking my baby. I'll love you forever, I'll love you for always, my baby you'll be. Back and forth she rocked it. He remembered that, and he logged right onto it. Just like a bee attracted to flowers, Malachi cannot resist an array of buttons. Whether it's on the console of a vehicle, a cassette player, which he loves to open and close, or a printer or a television, he will get it to do something given the time alone to investigate. One morning he was randomly adjusting everything on the face of my record player when I showed up in my room. He switched his attention to the record albums stored in the cabinet beneath and pulled out Kate and Anna McGarrigle, which I put on the turntable right away. It was surprisingly appropriate for his listening, and he took to it easily. He started dancing, and I joined him, and the occasion was well enjoyed. On another day, drawn to the same activity of checking out the albums beneath the record player, he pulled out a box set of Mahler's Fifth Symphony, which of course I played. He listened for a while, to the trumpet fanfare and explosive dynamics crashing and booming, but the spaces in between were too much for him, and he took off, to return later to where I was still sunk into an armchair, and he asked for Pingu, the penguin, which is his favourite character to be found on the computer. The signature tune for Pingu galvanises Malachi to dance the penguin walk. Shuffling along, flapping his arms, happily imitating the cartoon characters who are always getting into trouble when going about their play, such as lost in ice caves or trying to avoid a huge ball of snow which they have loosed upon the community. I once ventured the penguin walk when at a play park with Malachi. Fortunately, he followed me. And before too long, we had a host of other kids as well. I felt just like the Pied Piper. One morning before I was awake, it was not the birds singing outside my bedroom window, which gradually filtered through my consciousness, but Malachi, who was playing a kid's snare drum on the landing beneath my room. Bang, 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 in well-timed strokes, which impressed me doubly because he sang in time to "The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round," etc., with great gusto. I had cause to wonder if there was anyone else up and awake at this time, and indeed pondered what time of the morning it actually was, because he often gets himself up and just goes about his business fishing around in the toy chest, or running his two-wheeled penguin suitcase up and down the main floor, dragged by the extension handle, while wearing a matching penguin backpack. Or else he could be astride a large red wooden train, which came from another era that sounded like rolling thunder as it traversed across the wooden floor, paddled by little feet. Malachi is well aware that music is encouraged here. I have a wooden tongue drum which I leave available for him in my room at his height level. And when he is in the mood, he plays in his way and will ask for his special sticks with red balls on the end, and also the odd green one, with which he will tap around for a while before changing over to the xylophone. Then he will zip the sticks along the keys from one end to the other in a sort of accomplished flourish. And he loves to smash the big cymbal, which lends a rush of finality to the composition. Since Malachi was just on loan for a couple of weeks, we had to give him back to his mum and dad. But memories for me trickle in and out, as I hope for him that he retains something of our experiences together in Fruitvale, and there be explorations yet to come, when we can just be kids before that time has passed for both of us. Thank you. I'll shut my mouth for a couple of minutes. Still on the subject of grandkids, this next poem which I'll read to you, I calligraphed for a lady, the author of the poem, who happens to be my wife's cousin, Penny Thornton Trump. And she writes poetry about her mother and about grandkids and that kind of thing. She had me calligraph it. And this is called With Love to My Grandchild. What gifts can I give you forever? Let me think now, my dear little one. My wish gifts for you are many. The stars, the moon, and the sun. The sun to brighten your sad days, the bright moon to help light your way. A breeze and some snowflakes for beauty, and stars to guide you each day. A little rain to remind you that life isn't always just right, and wonderful dreams for your bedtime to comfort you all through the night. And always a little encouragement when your day has been long and not kind. My patience and my understanding, and wee bits of wisdom of mine. I hope I can give you much happiness, laughter, and kiss away tears, and my love that is all overflowing to help you all through the years. These are my wish gifts, my grandchild. Your little soul, precious and dear, may health, joy, and peace follow always, year after year after year. next piece of writing is called To All Parents. And it takes in or expresses to some degree the pain that may arise from losing a child. To all parents, I'll lend you for a little while a child of mine, he said, for you to love while he lives and mourn when he is dead. It may take 6 or 7 years or 22 or 3, but will you, till I call him back, take care of him for me? He'll bring his charms to gladden you, and shall his stay be brief, you'll have his lovely memories as solace for your grief. I cannot promise he will stay, as all from earth return, but there are lessons taught down there that I want this child to learn. I've looked the wide world over in my search for teachers true, and from the throngs that crowd life's lanes, I have selected you. Now will you give him all your love, nor think the labour vain, nor hate me when I take him back again? I fancied that I heard them say, Dear Lord, thy will be done. For all the joy this child shall bring, the risk of grief we will run. We'll shower him with tenderness and love him while we may, and for the happiness we've known, forever grateful stay. And should the angels call for him much sooner than we planned, we'll brave the bitter grief that comes and try to understand. So, the life of a child, the love that comes from it, and when it grows, the wisdom which hopefully it takes with it to get through its experience in life. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud, it is not rude. It is not easily angered. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Like I said, wisdom is something that we might hope we have when we're moving through our experiences. And I don't think, well, rather, I do think that the poem by Rudyard Kipling called If sort of exemplifies this kind of more of a mature wisdom. If you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all people doubt you, yet make allowances for their doubting too, if you can wait and not get tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, nor look too good or talk too wise. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, and see the things you've given your life to broken, and so stoop and build them up again with worn-out tools. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, and if you can think but not make thoughts your aim, and if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat these two impostors just the same, if you can walk with kings but not lose the common touch, if you can walk with crowds and not lose your virtue, if you can spend the unforgiving minute in 60 seconds worth of distance run, then yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And what is more, you'll be a man, my son. And may I add, a woman, my daughter. So that concludes my presentation. I think we're about at the time, are we, Ali?
We're good.
And so I have something for everybody to take away. I won't go through it here. This is what it will be. Something that I calligraphed like centuries ago, it seems. You know, if a child lives with criticism, he learns to be shy. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight, etc., etc. But you see for yourself, because you can each take one after we finish that ceremony. I don't want to interrupt it right now. So thank you all for listening, and that's my offering for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a request.
Yeah.
I don't want calligraphy or anything. I just want the authors and the titles, because
Sure.
there's several things that you have, and I can find them myself, I'm sure, on the internet or anything.
Well, I have copies of everything. If you want a copy, just ask me.
I want, but maybe everybody wants.
Well, yeah, okay, well, you know, a few dollars,
Yeah.
you know, it'll cost me a copy, so I'll just, you know.
Well, that's perfect. I'd
Yeah.
like a copy of
Sure.
several of yours.
Yeah, sure, we can talk about that after. They'll all be on the table for everyone to look at.
And
And
who was,
if they want one, just put your name down on a piece of paper and I'll get it together by next week.
okay.
Yeah.
I won't be here next week, but.
Well, it'll be here for you whenever you want to pick it up, yeah.
And I thank you very much.
My pleasure.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
And, you know, as everybody is saying, it was really great. Thank you very much, Paul.
My pleasure.
So, oh yeah, I'm not paying attention here. So we're gonna, pass the, Course in Miracle cards and. And, now you finish looking at the
30 years now.
Uh-huh.
And 20 odd years of that time I spent in a print shop as a pressman.
Oh.
So it's a calligrapher's dream, really, to have such a combination. Finally able to work it into my life because it's my passion, obviously. You know, it's just messaging, basically. You know, sending messages. And so I can print, you know, and photocopy to my heart's delight. You know, I rack up hundreds and hundreds of dollars in bills, and I never sell any of it generally, you know. But I don't want to talk about that. But I have I have a treasure chest available of all kinds of subject matter that I've tackled over the years, all available as copies. And the only time I ever get rid of them is when I decide to do or remember to book up something at the Christmas craft fair.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, I don't do business. But
Uh-huh.
I have all of this stuff. And so if any of you, you know, are interested in it, then it would be my pleasure to unload some of it onto you.
So maybe when you get more famous, this will be in demand and you'll be able to make some money out of it.
Well, yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, I've always thought this might be the case. Yeah.
So, how about if we begin with the reading of our cards?
Think but an instant just on this. You can behold the holiest God has given you, and never need you think there is something else for you to see.
Can we get that again?
Yeah, read that again.
Think but an instant just on this. You can behold the holiness God has given you, and never need you think that there is something else for you to see.
Cool. The holiest of all these spots on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love.
Wow.
God, I've never had this before.
I don't remember hearing that one before either. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
please.
The holiest of all the spots on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love.
Miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires them. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle.
What is heaven but a song of gratitude and love and praise by everything created to the source of its creation?
Your worth is not established by teaching or learning. Your worth is established by God. Nothing you do or think or wish or make is necessary to establish your worth.
There is no time, no place, no state where God is absent. There is nothing, no thing to be feared.
The children of God are entitled to the perfect comfort that comes from perfect trust. Until they achieve this, they waste themselves and their true creative powers on useless attempts to make themselves more comfortable by